Namaskar everyone, welcome to Next IS. Today is 20th December 2026 and we are back with another session of daily news analysis. Let's begin. Let's begin with the quote of the day. The quote of the day I have borrowed from Hitopadesh. It says, Uddamen hi siddhanti karyani nav maron the nahi suptas singhas pravishanti mukhe mrga. So in Devanagari Hindi, if we translate it to, it comes out जिस प्रकार सोते हुए सिंह के मुंह में मृग स्वयं नहीं प्रवेश कर जाता, उसी प्रकार केवल इच्छा करने से सफलता प्राप्त नहीं होती, अपने कार्य को सिद्ध करने के लिए मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. Fine. So this quote I have specifically taken keeping in mind the pattern of the examination, the view of the examination. This quote signifies the underlying principle behind this quote is the efforts which one has to put while qualifying this examination. It does not matter whether you're working hard or you're working smart. What matters is the efforts. So efforts matter the most. It is only the efforts which translate to hard work, and later on it becomes the smart work, which many of the toppers have told you. Fine. So there will be various dimensions which can be attributed to this quote. When we talk about the UPSC, UPSC examination as such, people aspire that I want to become an IS officer, I want to become a IPS officer. But we have to acknowledge that it's not a desire-driven examination. It's a process-driven examination. So when it comes to process, the want of something is not enough for you. You have to work hard for that. And the quote significantly underlines the same. That is why, for me, this quote is a quote which every aspirant should imbibe and inculcate in his behavior. Let's quickly look at the topics which we will be covering today. The first news article will be from the world page of the Indian Express. It says, for first time, a former refugee will lead UN's Refugee Agency. Fine. The second news article is on page 1 and page 2 of Indian Express. It is on the gaps which the CAG has found in the skill initiatives such as PMKVY. The third article which we'll be covering is on page 20th of Indian Express. It is on the rupees weakening against the dollar, and what are the reasons we'll see in this article. The fourth article is on page 12. I have taken it from the Hindu newspaper. It is about the WHO meet boost collaboration on global health, Prime Minister. So that is an article about the traditional knowledge meet which has happened recently in Gujarat and concluded yesterday only. The last article which we'll be covering today is on page 12 of the Hindu. It is about the corporates have a fundamental duty to protect the environment, and it has been said by Supreme Court recently. So these are the articles we'll be covering. Let's begin one by one. So coming to the first article, the article says, for the first time, a former refugee will lead United Nations Refugee Agency. So the news says, the summary of the news as such is that the former Iraqi president Barham Saleh will lead the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR. So that is the news. Let's move ahead. So about the appointment and the significant we'll talk about. So Barham Saleh, I've already told you, has been selected and nominated as the head of UNHCR. He is the first ever former refugee. He himself quoted in the UN General Assembly when his name was announced that he is a former refugee himself. Then he's also the first Middle Eastern to head the UN Refugee Agency. Fine. His appointment was approved by UNGA. His name was announced by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The tenure will last for a period of 5 years, starting with January 2026. Fine. So let us briefly know about the person in news, Barham Saleh. Though it may not be very important when it comes to the prelims point of view, but it is giving due respect to the personality that will just know about him. So he is the former president of Iraq. he served for a period of 4-5 years, that is 2018 to 2022. He's a veteran Kurdish politician as such. He was associated with the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. Fine. He has served twice as the Prime Minister of Kurdistan Regional Government as also. So it's an autonomous government which is being granted in the in the country of Iraq. Fine. He was also a refugee in the United Kingdom during the Saddam Hussein regime. So he took refuge in the United Kingdom during the years of his persecution during the Saddam Hussein's regime. So next comes the most important aspect of the news article. Why we are discussing the news article, you must be wondering that what is so good about knowing the person in news. I've already told you that UPSC hardly asks any personality based questions when it comes to such international figures, but for us, the organization UNHCR, this organization, United Nations High Commission for Refugee, is of utmost importance. We have repeatedly seen that in UPSC prelims, organizations in news are always being asked, whether it comes to last year's 2024's World Toilet Organization or any questions on United Nations as such has been repeatedly asked. Fine. So let's know about the mandate. So when it comes to mandate, it says that its mandate is the protection and assistance to refugees, asylum seekers, stateless person, and internally displaced persons. Fine. So we have to focus on these aspects. Refugees are being protected, asylum seekers, stateless person who are not associated with any state, and people who are internally displaced also. I like you to have certain specific examples also. So that is an exercise which I leave to you. There are many popular internally displaced persons who have already been in news recently. So your task is to identify those. Next is the headquarters. So it is stationed in Geneva, Switzerland. It was established in 1950s. Its parent body is United Nations General Assembly. Another important fact which has to be remembered by you, and it has high probability of being asked in the prelims examination, that this organization was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize twice. So it is one of the rarest moments when any organization was awarded the Peace Prize twice, 2 times. First was in 1954 in the aftermath of the World War II. It was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for its work in Europe, specifically when it comes to aftermath of World War II. Then again in 1981 for the global refugee assistance which it gave. Fine. Small point is that it operates in 130 plus countries as such. Again, we'll talk about the refugees, asylum seeker, IDPs. They do not cover economic migrants as such. So this is a point where UPSC can trick you, that it may give you an option with economic migrants also as one of the options, and you may get confused. So you have to keep in mind that it does not primarily handle the economic migrants as such, and it is handled by the IMO. So next is about the legal framework. The next thing up is the legal framework that is related to refugees. So we have talked about the organization which deals with refugees, UNHCR. We have talked about the person who is going to lead the organization as such. Let's talk about a little about refugees also. Who are refugees? So the 1951 Refugee Convention, it defines refugee as a person who, owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion, is outside the country of their nationality. So this aspect is very important. He or she must be outside the country of their nationality and is unable, or owing to such fears, fear of what? fear of being persecuted for the reasons of race, religion, nationality, is unwilling to avail of the protection of that country. Fine. So that is a standard definition and the universally accepted definition of a refugee, which has been given. I've explained the nitty-gritties and the small catch points which you have to keep in mind. Fine. It also outlines the rights of the refugees and the obligations of the associated state where the refugee is seeking for asylum. The state has certain obligation towards them. So the convention, the 1951 convention, defines the rights of refugees and obligations of states also. 67 protocol of the same convention was also given, where it removed the geographical and the time limitation of the 1951 convention. So there was some time limitation and geographical constraint which limited the right seeking of the refugees as such. Thereby, with this protocol of 67, that limitation was done away with. One of the most important factors or the principles when it comes to refugees and return of refugees as such is the core principle which mandates it. So it's the principle of non-refoulement. What it says is refugees cannot be forcibly returned to countries where they face persecution. So parties, states which are signatory to this convention, 1951 convention and its protocol, they cannot refuse to return a refugee as such. Suppose let's say country A has signed this convention, and some let's say me, for instance, I am seeking an asylum or a refugee status in that country. So they cannot refuse me a refugee status because they have signed it. So that is the explanation, and that is what is meant by non-refoulement principle. An important point to note is that India is not a signatory to both of these conventions. India, what it follows is case by case admission, and it seeks each case and it treats it in own ways. Fine. So let's move to the next slide. So this is a previous year question which I found for you. You can pause for a moment and attempt the same. This was asked in 2024 prelims examination. It is the same which I was talking about, World Toilet Organization. So pause for a moment and attempt it. Let's move ahead. Let's talk about the second article which is in news. So the article says some number, it's some finite number, as account numbers shut centers, same photos, CAG on gaps in skill schemes. So recently there was a report, audit report of CAG which was tabled in Lok Sabha, that is on Thursday, and it pointed out to these glaring shortcomings in the skill schemes of the country as such, particularly in Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana. Fine. So that is the context we are talking about. Let us move ahead. So I've already told you that the CAG has highlighted serious implementation gaps in Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana, including misuse of bank accounts, duplication of photographs, non-functioning of training centers, and weak monitoring mechanism for a period operating from 2015 to 2022. Fine. So let us see what were the key findings of CAG report. So there were certain heads under which we'll cover the findings. The first is the financial and the beneficiary irregularities. So CAG, it observed that there were dummy bank accounts being used. The article itself starts with a dummy number that was used as bank account number for multiple beneficiaries as such. Single bank account was attributed to multiple beneficiaries and candidates. Then Aadhaar linkage uses. Aadhaar, which was propounded as a savior for the public exchequer, that linkage issue has also some issues. There was incomplete or incorrect Aadhaar seeding of bank accounts as such. Disbursement was made without proper verification in early phases. So the operation phase for the scheme was 2015 to 2022. So during the earlier phase of the scheme, when Aadhaar seeding was not that prominent, there were disbursement issues, and there was no proper verification of Aadhaar linkages as such. That is also being highlighted in the report. Then third is DBT failures, direct benefit transfer failures. Only 18.44% candidates were successfully paid under the scheme in its version of 2.0 and 3.0. So the Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana, it operated in 4 phases. The fourth phase is the current phase which is going on, and there were only near about less than 20% candidates which received disbursement during the initial 2 or 3 phases. Payment of only 6.14 lakh candidates are pending as of 2024 October. So that is a big shortcoming. The next, let's move to the next issue. So second is the fake and the poor quality training. So it also highlighted about the training centers which are operating in the scheme. So it said that the same photograph were used for multiple beneficiaries. It cited the case of UP, Bihar, Maharashtra and Rajasthan where such cases were identified. There were shut or non-functional training centers which were operating. For instance, in Bihar, 2 out of the 3 centers were closed. Then there was certification without training as such. Some candidates were certified as best in class without the proper assessment also. So these are some of the glaring shortcomings which the report is pointing out to. Then the last of it pointed out that trainings were not aligned to industry need. We'll see what are the industry need and the certification standards which is to be followed in this scheme in the later part of the discussion. But for the purpose of time, you need to know that those training standards were not adhered to, and that defeated the overall employability objectives of the scheme as such. Fine, let's move to the next slide. So the next is about the data and monitoring deficiencies. So the Skill India portal through which the scheme was operated, it had incomplete candidate details, invalid bank accounts. We already talked about the Aadhaar seeding issues and other stuff, and contact information. For instance, less than about 40% of the emails, it was observed that it bounced back. So there were incorrect email accounts as such also. So there was no response from the candidate side. Fine. That is the very next point. Poor response to beneficiary surveys also were there, because the email accounts were fraud, or they were incomplete in nature. Not to say will be an exaggeration to say fraud, but they were incomplete due to certain reasons. Thereby the surveys were left incomplete. So here is the data, only about 3.95%. So on a larger side, if we say, only about 4% of the email had a response rate. So that is an issue. Then lack of effective physical inspection of the training centers. So the audit was not perfect in nature. The physical verifications were not being adhered to as per norms. Fine. So these were the issues which were primarily observed by the CAG report, which was tabled in Lok Sabha on Thursday. The observations may be used for the purpose of mains answer writing, but we are now shifted our focus more to the prelims mode. So how come this article is relevant for our prelims? The scheme which it covers. So the primary scheme which it covers is the Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana. So this is the flagship scheme of the government. It was launched in the year 2015. The nodal ministry as such was Ministry of Skill Development and Enterprise, MSDE. The nature of the scheme, there are 2 types of scheme which are operating: central sector scheme and central sponsored. So this was a centrally sponsored scheme. Almost all the funds were directly given by the centers, and states had didn't had to contribute any funds as such. Fine. Who was the implemented agency as such? So National Skill Development Corporation, NSDC, was the implementing agency. A point to catch here is that the nodal ministry was MSDE, but the implementing agency, that is different. That is NSDC. A small task for you, for the smarter people like you, would be to go back and learn a bit about this agency. There has been a question in the past on this agency and similar likes. So it will be better if you'll backtrack and give a reverse engineering to the agency as such. Next comes the target group. So the target groups were youth, primarily in the age bracket of 15 to 45 years. School college dropouts were targeted, and unemployed were as usual, because it's a skilling scheme, so they were also being targeted. Let's come to the objective part. So the first objective was that it provides short-term term skill training, that was called STT. Then it enabled certification and employability. So people who were trained, they were given certification after the completion of the course, and they were also being connected to the academy, the industries as such, for post certification employability. Then the last was very important component, RPL. So recognition of the prior learning. If someone is coming from already has some kind of certificate, so that was recognized under the scheme, and that is what this concept of RPL was. RPL is there, recognition of this existing skill or the prior learning. Fine. So let's move to the next slide. So let us look at the core components. The objectives will just expand and learn, so that we know each and every nook and hook of the scheme. So the core components of the scheme. So the core components of Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana. First is, we've already talked about short-term training. So fresh skilling for school and college dropouts would be there. Then NSQF aligned course. This is a standard which will look in slides ahead. So the standard is about the quality framework, skill quality framework, which has been set up by the implementing agency NSDC as such. That aligned courses coupled with training, assessment and certification are there. Then second is recognition of prior learning. We've already talked about that. It certifies informal skills also. Some people have informal skills which are not certified, but they'll have to give a small test over there, and if they are able to pass that test, that will also be certified and included in their upcoming certificates. So those skills possessed by the workers will be certified. And this is very important when it comes to migrants and organized sector workers, which do not have any existing framework to adhere to such standards. Then there is a special project also, where the target is difficult, remote or specialized sector. They are also targeted. If, for example, tribal areas, disaster affected regions, for them also this scheme is operating. Some additional points when it comes to the scheme with regards to prelims is that the skill and certification framework is based on the National Skill Qualification Framework. Fine. So that is the standard which has been set by the implementing agency. We do not need to go into the integrities of the framework. We just need to know that there is a objective framework which is being set up. Fine. Under the scheme, every certified candidate is given a reward of rupees 500 for clearing the exam as encouragement. So a token encouragement, token monetary encouragement is also being provided to the candidates. Fine. An important aspect is the aspect of inclusivity when it comes to the scheme. The scheme, it had 45% of the candidates being women. So that is one of the important factors. Then it also has significant share coming from scheduled castes, tribes and other backward class as such. Fine. The progress of the scheme is over the years more than 1.63 crore candidates have been trained under the scheme, with the training being given in diverse areas such as manufacturing, construction, healthcare, IT, electronic, retails and many more which are relevant for the informal sectors as such. You can always look at the data. I've taken it from the PIB. So I've already told that the scheme operated in 4 phases. The first phase was from 2015 to 16, where nearly 19 lakh, nearly 20 lakh people enrolled. Similar number were trained, nearly similar number were assessed, and nearly 14.5 lakh people were certified. When it comes to the phase 2, it operated for a period of 4 years, 2016 to 2020. Nearly 11 lakhs enrolled and nearly 9.15, 91 lakhs they got the certificates. Then when it comes to the third phase, which operated during the time of COVID, nearly 7,94,000 enrolled, and nearly half of them got certified. The current phase is the fourth phase, which is being operated. It is operating from 2022 and it's still going. So near about we had 33 lakh enrollments and nearly half of them are certified till now, and the phase is still going. Fine. Let's know a little bit about the Skill India mission also, because it's also one of the skilling schemes which is going on, and it's a flagship scheme of the government. So what the scheme aims? So the scheme aims to deliver skill, reskill and upskill training. So this is a catchy phrase-work which people have been using in their answer writing, and government has been popularizing the phrase also. So skill, reskill and upskill training through an extensive network of skill development centers, institutes under various schemes. So it's a umbrella scheme and there are many schemes which are operating under the scheme. Fine. An important point to know, an update is that in February 2025, it was restructured. This Skill India program was restructured and approved for a period of 2022-23 to 25-26. Thereby, it merged PMKVY 4.0, the Pradhan Mantri National Apprenticeship Promotion Scheme, and the Jan Shikshan Sansthan scheme into a single sector scheme. So previously we learned that Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana was a centrally sponsored scheme, but now it has been taken into ambit of a umbrella scheme as such by the name of Skill India program, and it has become a central part of a central sector scheme, a single central sector scheme. Fine. The components, the three schemes, namely PMKVY, Jan Shikshan Sansthan and National Apprentice Promotion Scheme, I've just explained it. You just need to go through them. The explanation, it's not that difficult, and you could just read it and go through it. Let me move to the next slide. So here is a practice question. It was asked in one of the previous year question about Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana only. So this is a question. Pause your videos for a moment, 30 odd second, and try to attempt the same. Fine. Let's come to the third article. The third article is about the rupee's weakness against the dollar. Fine. And what are the reasons behind it? What is the role of central bank, India's central bank, that is RBI, and other aspects as well. So for summary, it talks about that even though the country's economy is progressing and is heading towards a very good spectacular show in the emerging economies, the Indian rupee is becoming weaker against the US dollar, and that is a cause of concern for many of us, and that is a paradox which has also been created as such, and it seeks to analyze the associated reasons for the same. Fine. So let's move ahead and we'll look at what the article talks about. So about the news, when we talk about, it says over the last 1 year, the rupee has fallen by about 6% against the dollar. Fine. We see a fall of nearly 6% when it comes to the exchange rate of rupee vis-a-vis dollar, and it says that it's a paradox, because on one hand the government is saying that Indian economy is doing pretty well, and it's outstanding its counterpart in the emerging economy sectors. So when the economy is doing well, when the external sector is doing well, the GDP growth is above the benchmarks 7 to 8%. Why is the rupee weakening? The second evaluation is that even though the rupee is weakening, the dollar is also weakening, but rupee vis-a-vis dollar is weakening. So dollar is strengthening vis-a-vis rupee, and that is a observation which the article makes. Fine. It also says that the RBI sold dollars in the market to stop the rupee from falling too much. So the RBI injected dollar, as such, and it also says that the rupee remains weak when it compared to many other currencies. Fine, it gives example of China, Japan, UK, Euro, Brazil, which are all in negative percentage point when it comes to exchange rate, but rupee it's again in a very good position as compared to other countries currency. Moving on to the next slide, what are the possible reasons it argues for the same are? The very first reason it says is about the trade deficit. That is very important. So we all know that India imports more than what it exports. Fine. So exports are far less than what we import, and when it comes to import, we need dollars or external currencies as such. Most of the trade in the world is based on dollars. So if we are importing too much, we need dollars too much. That is why there is demand of dollars in the market. That is what is written here, because it imports too much vis-a-vis the export with products like crude oil, electronics, fertilizers, for which we need dollars. Therefore, higher the import, greater the demand for dollars, and the greater the pressure on rupee. So there will be more demand for dollar and less demand for rupee because we're importing too much. That is why it is contributing to the weaker rupee. Fine. The next point which it talks about is the global trade and geopolitical factors. So we have seen supply chain irregularities due to geopolitical tensions such as the Russia-Ukraine war, the Middle East crisis. Those are some of the prominent reasons which are contributing to the destabilization of the regimes. Then the article talks about the US trade policy also. The Trump 2.0 regime has recently imposed tariffs up to nearly 50% on Indian exports. Fine. So if there are higher tariffs on Indian imports, the imports will become costlier in the foreign market, and because they are becoming costlier in the foreign market, so there will be less demand for Indian goods there. If demands are not that much as proportionate to the supply, then there will be fewer dollars which will be earned for those products, and then as there will be fewer dollars, there will always be, so dollars are less. Fine. So their demand will rise. Demand will rise vis-a-vis rupee. Thereby contributing to again weakening of rupee. So the rupee is caught up in that vicious cycle where the demand of dollar, the supply of dollar is less and demand increases, thereby the value of rupee depreciates. Fine. So India-US trade tensions and diplomatic uncertainties also contributes to the investor sentiments as such. Fine. Investors either think that Indian equities are overvalued, or they think that the Indian companies will not be able to garner them good profits in the nearby future, and thereby they are less enthusiastic about the Indian markets, thereby contributing to the depreciation in rupee terms. Then the next point is about the less foreign investment. Fine. So already talked about the foreign investment moods in the market, how the investors are looking at Indian markets as such. So there was a survey which the article points out of Bank of Baroda study, which says that the foreign investors are investing more in the US market, China, Japan. It points out that the US stock indices rose by nearly 17 to 23%. The China market, Japan market, Hong Kong market performed more significantly than the Indian Sensex. Fine. Indian Sensex, it gained about 8% in the specified term, whereas markets such as Hong Kong, they rose by nearly 27%. So that is one of the factors which is contributing to the depreciation as such. Fine. Already told you that the perception of the stock market is perceived as overvalued, and thereby the inflows are reducing. Fine. The less foreign money, that is the FPI is also coming to India. That is why there are less dollar supply will be there, so there will be more demand of it, and then the rupee will automatically weaken. Next point is about the RBI's exchange rate policy. Not much of a significant, but you should know two terms here. One is spot market, how the RBI stabilizes the valuation of rupee. So it has two methods, one by spot market and other is by forward market. What is spot market? Spot market is when buying and selling of dollars is done immediately, and forward market is when there is an agreement to buy or sell the dollars in future. So one is at that moment, that very instant, and another is a agreement that I'll buy certain amount of dollars from the market in future. So these are the two methods in which the RBI tries to stabilize. So the article makes a point that forward market interventions affect the rupee more than the spot market intervention. So for instance, the spot market interventions, they give a at the moment volatility in the market, but that are subsequently absorbed by the market. But the forward market interventions, they have a long term effect on the valuation of rupee. Fine. Next point, not a very significant as the article says, because the volume of trade deficit is not that significant, is about the trade deficit only. The survey, it says that trade deficit did not strongly correlate with rupee movement in the short term, though it had some long term impact, but in the short term, trade deficit was not a very significant reason for the depreciation, because trade reflects booked transaction which have already been booked, fine, not the immediate dollar inflow, fine. Exporter may delay bringing dollars back to India. So these are the two reasons why the trade deficit is not affecting as such. It also talks about many non-economic factors. Global uncertainty, we have already talked when speaking on the first slide. The investor confidence, subsequently we talked about this also, and expectation about the future. Fine. So these are the reasons. So this is one of the previous year questions which I've taken, I guess it is from 2021, the effect of devaluation of a currency. So you can pause the video for a moment and try to attempt this question. So coming to the fourth article of the day, it says WHO meet boost collaboration on global health, Prime Minister Modi. So the second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine was organized in India, and the article is on the same aspect. Fine, the summary says India hosted the second WHO Global Summit on Traditional Medicine, where health ministers and experts from many countries discussed how traditional medicine and modern technology can work together to improve global health. Fine. So let's come to the important highlights of the summit. It started from 16th and it culminated yesterday. So this was the date in which the event took place. It was organized by none other than WHO, World Health Organization. You should know something, a backdrop about when was WHO established, what is its mandate, what are the funding issues it is facing, how funding is done for WHO, which are the member country, is it a universally accepted organization, or there is some significant country which has withdrawn from WHO as such. Fine. So some back research, reverse engineering on the aspect of WHO has to be done by you. Fine. Let's come to the theme of the summit. So the theme of the summit is restoring balance for people and planet, the science and practice of well-being. So a theme relating to the traditional medicine aspect has been taken. What the summit focused on was research in traditional medicine, simplifying regulations, sharing scientific knowledge which is spread across various countries. Fine. It emphasized combining traditional medicine and modern science and technology also. Coming to the role India will play in this is the WHO's Global Center for Traditional Medicine. It is established in Jamnagar, Gujarat. Fine. It is first such WHO center in the world. So India has this unique uh, place when it comes to hosting a WHO center which is unique in the world. Fine. What it aims is promoting evidence-based traditional medicine, supports global standards and research. So standardization and shifting away from quackery, etc., will be the prime aim of the organization. Fine. Let's come to the next aspect, the traditional medicine digital library, which is one of the important achievements of the present summit. So India launched the traditional medicine digital library. It is the world's largest digital repository. Fine. On what? On traditional, complementary and integrative medicines as such, and it aims to bringing together over 1.5 million records. Fine. So important feat for India, an important point for us to remember when it comes to prelims point of view. Then it will serve as a global knowledge resource which evidence maps, research, policies and regulatory information from across WHO member states relating to traditional medicines. So members will be sharing informations, their practices, good practices, experiences with traditional medicines. A sandbox kind of initiative will be created under the library. What is the purpose? Needless to say, it seeks to preserve traditional knowledge, support scientific research, and prevent misuse and address issues related to biopiracy also. Fine. Then an important aspect is what is the use of digital technology in health. So the summit highlighted various digital tools, artificial intelligence, research and innovation, model wellness infrastructure, showing integration of tradition and technology. Fine. So these are the uses as such. What are the key collaborations announced? So a center of excellence with BIMSTEC for focus on health cooperation, strengthening regional collaboration. There's also a Indo-Japan collaboration taking place which seeks to integrate modern sciences, traditional practices and healthcare systems as such. When it comes to the partnership with BIMSTEC, I wanted you all to know again which are the member countries of BIMSTEC, when it got established. So I have got an infographic here, you can always look at it. 7 member countries are there vis-a-vis Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka. The objectives which you can read out there, nothing is much to explain, so I am skipping that part. But the map of the region and which are the member countries, when it comes to SARC also. So which country is not there in BIMSTEC, which is there in SARC, those aspects you can always look through. It was founded in 1997 through Bangkok Declaration. Fine. Sorry. Where is the secretariat located, and those aspects you all know, but you need to revise when it comes to prelims aspect. Next is about the traditional medicine. Let's talk a little about traditional medicines also, about its legacy and the present relevance, because the summit was on those lines. So it is the traditional medicines. These are one of the world's oldest holistic healing traditions. So before allopathy and all those newer modern medicine technology took over, there were traditional medicines which were used to treat patients, and these are world's oldest holistic traditions as such. Fine. According to WHO, traditional, complementary and integrative medicine is used in 170 of its 194 member states. So WHO has 194 member states, and out of that 170 are using this traditional medicine. Fine. While countries like India, China, Japan have long established system of traditional medicine, they are also widespread in regions of Africa and the America. So it is not that only these are spread in the continent of Oriental Asia, but it is found in various other continents also, vis-a-vis America, Africa and certainly Europe also. Fine. In India, talking about the institutional framework, it is under the Ministry of Ayush. Systems such as Ayurveda, Yoga and naturopathy Unani, Siddha, Suvarikpa, and homeopathy are formally now recognized within the public health framework. So it is very important to know about all these systems vis-a-vis Ayurveda, Yoga, and naturopathy, Unani, Siddha, Suvarikpa, and homeopathy. Let's move to the next slide and look at them each one by one. So when it comes to Ayurveda, Ayurveda is one of the most ancient, is India's ancient system of holistic healing that focuses on balancing of the body, mind, and spirit through natural principles. Unani is a holistic healing system which is based on maintaining balance in the body through diet, lifestyle, and natural remedies. So these are the three aspects. Suvarikpa, very important when it comes to UPSC point of view. We have questions on this in past. So Suvarikpa or Amchi medicine, fine. It's based mainly in Himalayan regions of Ladakh or higher altitude. In Tibet, it is very popular. And it's a Himalayan healing traditions rooted in Buddhist principles and Ayurvedic fundamentals. So, blending both the aspects of Ayurveda and taking help of the Buddhist principle, this technique was introduced, and it's very popular in the higher altitude of Himalayan regions. Next is yoga and naturopathy. So, yoga is all about mind-body discipline, and it combines various postures, breathing exercise, meditation to achieve physical strength, mental calmness, and inner balance. Naturopathy, on the other hand, is natural healing system that uses various diet combination, lifestyle practices to help the body to heal itself on its own. Then coming to Siddha, it is also one of India's oldest healing system. Often highly personalized treatment is given to the patients using herbs, minerals, specialized formula, and diagnostic method like pulse and tongue examination. Fine. Last but not the least is the homeopathy, is a scientific system of medicine that relies on gentle, individualized remedies to stimulate the body's natural healing response. Fine. Not much to explain here. You have to memorize and mug up the concept so that match the following kind of question, or maybe something specific related to terms like Suvarikpa, or maybe on Siddha practices can be asked, and you will be able to answer those. The next part is we have the second summit which was organized. So the first summit was again held in 2023 in India only, in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. So you can always read about that. It's good to know about the previous summit also, given the case that only 2 such summits have been organized. Read about the Gujarat Declaration which was adopted then in there, which reaffirmed global commitment to evidence-based TCIM, traditional medicines, called for improved data and regulatory framework on the same. Fine. So that is about the first summit which took place in 2023. The last article for the day I've taken from Hindu. It talks about a Supreme Court observation where it says corporates have fundamental duty to protect the ecosystem, asserts Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court has said that companies also have a fundamental duty to protect the environment, just like citizens. It ruled that CSR must include environmental protection and not just charity or social work. So that is the story behind. Let us come to what the article is all about. So what were the key observations here of the Supreme Court? The court says that corporates have environmental responsibility. A company hereby is a legal person, therefore it has a fundamental duty to protect the environment. CSR must include environmental responsibility. Also, it's not a charity per se, but a constitutional duty. Very important point to note. Fine. Again, what is to be done from our end now for smart people like us is to go and revise fundamental duties. We'll talk about the specific fundamental duty which the Supreme Court has relied on here, but fundamental duty when it comes, which part of the constitution it goes. So it's 4A. When it was introduced, how many fundamental duties are there, what is their constitutional positions, can they be enforced, what are the different aspects and other things you have to learn and brush up. Fine. Next, the second point which it linked with the constitution. So the court linked CSR with article 51AG. So we have fundamental duties in article 51A of the constitution in part 4A. Then in the subpart G, which says that it is the duty of citizen to protect and improve the natural environment, including forest, river, lakes, wildlife, and also includes compassion for living creatures. This is the text I've taken from the article itself. So you have to know what it talks about. Fine. An important fact you should be knowing here is that it applies to both citizen and corporation. So for our purpose, both are to be treated as legal persons, and legal persons are bound by constitution that they'll follow such laws. Fine. Next is about the shared ecosystem concept. So the court, as we already talked about, that emphasize that the companies share the ecosystem with wildlife and local communities, and thus they cannot claim to be socially responsible while damaging the environment as such. Thereby, the companies must act as guests in nature and not owners, similar to the concept of Gandhiji. Fine, where he talks about trusteeship as such. So as we know that CSR was based on the principle of trusteeship, so the court has hereby gone and relied on that logic only. Next is the polluters pay principle. We all know this, again emphasized by court, that if corporate activities such as mining, power, infrastructure, they damage the ecosystem and threaten the endangered species, then the companies have to bear, must bear the cost of restoration. So whoever is polluting, the person has to pay. That is the simple polluters pay concept. Important small exercise for you is, you have to give me in comment section which is the famous case in which this principle was first reaffirmed by the Supreme Court, this polluters pay principle. Fine, do comment in the boxes. It includes in situ conservation and ex situ conservation, this principle per se. So a little bit about the case background as such. So the case is related to the risk the Great Indian Bustard is facing due to the activities of the company, and for our prelims point of view, it becomes important. Whatever we have learned is okay, but an extended part of it is to know about what is the Great Indian Bustard and what are the threats it faces, what are the IUCN status, WPA status, and all those aspects. So the Great Indian Bustard it is. So Great Indian Bustard, also known by the name of Godawan, locally in Rajasthan. Fine. This is the bird which we are referring to. It is one of the heaviest flying birds in the world. Fine. But the flight is not that high. It flies to certain meters only, and it cannot fly high up, thereby restricting the flight. Let's come to the distribution part. So the distribution part is as such. Let's say this is the map of India. I'll just take a fine. So it is found in Rajasthan, primarily Gujarat, with extended population existing in MP also, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. So these four, they have limited or sparse population, But these two regions, especially that when it comes to Rajasthan, has good number of population of Great Indian Bustard, and thereby it is adopted also as the state animal of Rajasthan, locally known as Godawan, as I already told you. Fine. That is the observation we have written here also, that it is found mainly in Rajasthan and Gujarat. Its habitat, it can only survive in dry grassland and shrubland. Thereby, the choice of habitat is such. Fine. Let's move to the next slide. So let's come to some of the additional characteristics of the bird as such. Fine. So both the sexes are roughly of the same size. There is no size difference between a male GIB and a female GIB, with the largest individuals weighing around 15 kgs as such. Fine. They breed mostly during the monsoon seasons, when females lay single egg on open grounds. We'll see, because of this open ground laying of eggs, there is threats also which is there to this Great Indian Bustard. An important point to note is that these species have a slow reproducing cycle. Fine. They usually the parenting is from nearly 1 year. The parenting cycle goes, and it takes about 3 to 4 years for a infant GIB to mature. Given that their lifespan is only 12 to 15 years, so it spends nearly 33%, 1/3 of its life cycle to mature. Thereby, there's always the limitation on the population size which is there, and thereby contributing to its IUCN status. So the IUCN status as critically endangered. Its WPA status, when it comes to WPA status 1972, it is there in Schedule 1. Fine. Site status, it's there in Appendix 1. Not needed per se. The only important aspect which you need to remember is it is there in Schedule 1 of WPA. Fine. Let's come to know about their diet. So the diet ranges widely depending on the seasonal availability of food. They can feed on grass seeds also. They can feed on snakes, insects like grasshopper, beetles, and sometimes even small rodents and reptiles. So they are mainly omnivorous in nature. Just a minute. So they are omnivorous. Fine. One aspect which is most talked about is why are they threatened and what are the reasons behind their threat. So the power lines. There was a recent case also 2-3 years back in Supreme Court on this aspect, the power lines. So these are heavy birds, and the flight is not that much high, and they also have limited visions. So they cannot see beyond a range, and thereby when they take a flight, they tend to strike these power lines and get electrocuted, and that is why much of their population in the grasslands of Rajasthan were on a decline. Fine. The renewable energy projects, they also threaten their habitat because they lead to habitat fragmentation. Fine. Then the infrastructure development, that is the human wildlife thing, which is restricting their population, is also there. Then we have cases of invasive species. So we learned that especially the wild dogs as such. So wild dogs are threatening their eggs. We learned that the females, they are laying the eggs on open fields. So the wild dogs, they come and destroy these eggs, and thereby they threaten the existence of the GIB as such. Let's come to the last aspect about the corporate social responsibility, because the case was as such. So let's know a little bit about the CSR also. So corporate social responsibility, it means that the company must contribute to social and environmental welfare. Important point to note about it is that in India it is mandatory for certain companies. We'll know in few moments that which are the companies which have to be mandatorily, they have to adhere to CSR norms. Let's move to the next slide to see that. Coming to the legal basis, fine. The legal basis of CSR in India. So it is governed by Section 135 of Companies Act 2013, Schedule 8 of the Companies Act, and Company CSR Rules 2014. So based on the act, the rules were made, and it is based on that. Point to be noted is that India is one of the countries where most detailed CSR framework is being adopted across the world. Fine. Which companies? So that is what we're talking about. That what is the criteria? Which companies should pay? Which companies should not pay? So a CSR is mandatory if a company meets any of the following criteria. Which are the following criteria? So the net worth of a company, if it is exceeding 500 crores, it has to pay a CSR of 2%. Turnover of 1000 crores, or a net profit of 5 crores as such. So any of these criteria, if it is breached, it is not that all the three have to be breached, any of the three. So it's a case of or. Any of the three criteria is meeting, and the responsibility of company to pay a CSR of 2% of the average profit of last 3 years in CSR has to be paid. Then small about the CSR committee. It decides on the CSR policy, activities, and expenditure. Every eligible company, it must form a CSR committee as such, which will have at least 3 directors and 1 independent director as well. Fine. So what are the activities which are given under CSR allowed? It is given in Schedule 8. Fine. So it can be used for the purpose of education, health and sanitation, environmental protection, poverty eradication, rural development, disaster relief, protection of national heritage. Fine. These are specified in the Schedule 8, as we have already taken a note of. Fine. Coming to nearly the end of the slides. What are the penal provisions in case of non-compliance? So if a company fails to comply with the CSR norm, then the company can be fined from 50,000 to 25 lakhs. So anything between, based on what is the net profit it is making, what is the turnover, what is the net size, they can be fined to the tune of from 50,000 to anywhere between 50,000 to 25 lakhs. And officers responsible, they can face imprisonment up to 3 years. It's not working. Just a second. So they can face imprisonment up to 3 years, or fine again up from 50,000 to 5 lakhs, or both. Fine. So that is the penal provision. What about the CSR amendment? So we had an amendment in 2019. Before 2019, the unspent CSR money could be carried forward to the next year. Fine. So companies would usually pile up on those money. They'll hoard up and they'll spend them maybe at a go, or they'll not be spending at all. But there was an amendment catering to this irregularities in 2019. So the unspent CSR amount, that has to be transferred to the government and to a Schedule 7 fund which was being created here. Fine. So a Schedule 7 fund was created at the end of the financial year, in which this unspent CSR fund was to be transferred. this amount which was transferred had to be used within the next 3 years, and if not used, transferred to the specified government funds. Fine. Thereby, the CSR spending is now strictly monitored and it has become more streamlined as such. Coming to the last PYQ for the day, this is on the corporate social responsibility. It was asked not so far, recently only in 2024 prelims. You may pause the video for a moment and try to answer. It's not a difficult question per se, and you can answer it in the comments box. And I hope you had a good time learning. Thank you and have a nice day.